Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
If you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions and his physiology even, and so making him actually love his slavery. I mean, I think this is the danger, that actually people may be in some ways happy under the new regime, but they will be happy in a situation where they oughtn't to be happy.
At the end of World War II, Operation Paperclip was launched by the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, to smuggle known Nazi war criminals into the United States for recruitment into U.S. intelligence agencies. The Nazis were cleared to work in America after having their backgrounds bleached by the military. False employment histories were provided, and their previous Nazi affiliations were completely removed from the record. The OSS provided a model for the Central Intelligence Agency that was established in September 1947. The CIA specialized in propaganda, economic warfare, sabotage, and demolition. By the early 1950s, they controlled over 25 newspapers and wire agencies and had 3,000 plus employees engaged in propaganda. Journalists willing to promote the views of the CIA included members of the New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, The Washington Post, and CBS Television.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks? This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole News and Public Affairs operation in 1954, ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
We're really talking about intelligence at the highest levels of the U.S. government, setting the broad direction for the nation.
Well, Darren, it seems like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Now, this was Operation Mockingbird exposed during the church hearings way back in the day, and people thought, you know, it was exposed then, and they kind of wiped their hands clean.
Yeah, now that it's exposed, it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
Now. Right, well, it's not over.
It's definitely not over, and now we're dealing with this propaganda coming from so many different channels. It's not just your mainstream media outlets, but also the tech companies are getting into it. Apple, Twitter, Google, Instagram, things that people can't even imagine. And if you've never been introduced to this kind of information, you have no idea how you're being controlled, and specifically this current election is being controlled.
Well, and that's the thing is a lot of people, and I've said this before on the show as well, a lot of people who don't even necessarily watch the news or read newspapers, they still form a strong political opinion based on television and the movies they go to, or even the internet, you know, and that's because there's only a small handful of corporations that control all of it. We're talking 90% of everything you read, everything you watch on TV, and everything you listen to on the radio. And now, as you were pointing out, social media as well, and all throughout the web. So they are in control. They've been doing it since the very beginning of media, as far as television media and radio.
Right. That's why they call it a program.
Television
That's
programming.
why it was invented, to program you.
Look, and I want to give you an example. And WikiLeaks has been a blessing. You know, we learned so much from WikiLeaks, but it was April 17th last year when WikiLeaks discovered emails of the U.S. entertainment industry being recruited by the Obama administration. So what happened was, we know for a fact through emails and through WikiLeaks that Obama was in touch with Sony Pictures and with Disney Corporation to help, what they said in the emails, control the narrative on ISIS and Russia's involvement in the Ukraine. Back in 2005, 2003 to 2005, during the second Iraq War, the Bush administration used video news releases. And these were news packages that were put together by the State Department and the Pentagon, and they were passed on to the major news networks to be played as actual news.
Right.
You know, so we know that's been going on as well. And I think that the latest propaganda isn't so much really a pro-Hillary message as it is an anti-Donald Trump message.
Oh, in every single way. It's so completely obvious. And I just want to walk it back a little bit because of what you said. I mean, just how we've been being propagated to. Now, we've reported in 2013, they repealed the Smith-Mundt Act officially, okay?
Which was 1948 when it first came in.
The Smith-Mundt Act was passed in 1948, and what it did was authorize the State Department to unleash propaganda outside of the United States, supposedly forbidding its dissemination inside the country. Of course, with those church committee hearings, Operation Mockingbird was exposed, and we know that's not the case. But they've continued to propagandize. So now that this Smith-Mundt Act was repealed in 2013, this means that the CIA can now openly propagandize to Americans. So they've been doing it this entire time, but under the veil of, you know, non-bias and truth journalism, free press. But now that it's been repealed, I mean, they're not even trying to hide the fact that they are actively propagandizing.
No, of course, they could do it right out in the open. And, you know, I was talking about WikiLeaks, and, you know, they also discovered a PowerPoint presentation from the DNC. And in the PowerPoint presentation, it says that, and this is just shows you how the media is supposed to follow orders. And this is a good example of how it works. And this is the #1 theme to convince Americans, and that is that Trump is dangerous and he is dividing the country. And this is a perfect example. I mean, and look at this. It says, call him out for dividing and insulting Americans. Use quotes from him about women. Cite ties to and support from groups like KKK and incidents of violence. And these will
downplay the Clinton's ties to the KKK.
But think about this. The mainstream media, bullet point by bullet point by bullet point,
Right.
they followed these directions.
Yeah,
right?
they had their
It's crazy.
reporters that they could trust to infiltrate the Trump rallies, or if he was giving a press conference, these are the questions you ask them.
Meanwhile, speaking of Trump rallies and versus Hillary Clinton rallies, we've all heard that Donald Trump, obviously nationwide, he is absolutely full capacity when it comes to his rallies versus Hillary Clinton, who has a hard time filling up a donut shop. But the mainstream media was caught red-handed lying about the crowd size of Trump rallies. Now, they've even resorted to photoshopping the images from her rally.
Crowd in, of course, we've seen
to make it look like more people are showing up.
Some state officials actually said Trump could only have 1,000 people in the stadium. They limited the size of the crowd.
Or they'll take pictures of Trump rallies like 2 hours before everybody got there. So these are dirty tricks that they've been playing for a long time.
It's all about the perception.
And now they're saying that it's over for Donald Trump. See, I always thought that as long as they make it 50-50, if the average American is convinced that it's tied neck and neck, and then once she steals the election, they're more likely to go ahead and say, you know what, hey, it was close, you know, so they'll fall for it. Now, the media has even gone as far as saying it's over for Trump. She's winning by a landslide.
Well, and it's also, too, just to get people, to discourage them from even going out and voting, for them to think, well, you know, when the landslide happens or when Hillary Clinton wins, I won't even question how that happened because the media told me he was never going to win anyway. He had no chance.
He doesn't have a chance. He'll stay home and forget about it. And Alex Jones, earlier in the radio show today, he was talking about how this is kind of like a Tokyo Rose propaganda from way back in the day. And for those of you who don't know who Tokyo Rose is, she was actually a Los Angeles native, but she was caught in Japan during the start of World War II. And she spoke fluent Japanese, and she was recruited by their propaganda machine. And she would go on the radio, especially to those who were in the Pacific, and she would tell our troops, give it up, man. You got no chance. You're losing. And so that's the same thing that it reminds me of what's going on with Hillary right now.
No, I mean, it's true. Maybe we can take out the segment with Tokyo Rose, let her take us out to the break. But that's it. I mean, these are just some dirty tricks. We had world-class journalists coming out admitting that every journalist has to get their talking points from the CIA. So, you know, you got to check your sources.
They will give you a medal, GI, but only after you are dead. Your government lies to you every day, poor soldier. You have lost this war, GI. Your army will leave you behind. They do not care about you.
Let's talk about Amerigeddon, which is available at InfoWarsStore.com exclusively right now for the next week or so. You get 2 copies, and you get 2 free films with it.
Yeah, and this is an important movie because it's fact-based. We tell a story about an EMP attack, an electromagnetic pulse attack on America that shuts down the grid. And our Congress has warned that if this were to happen, 90% of the American population would die in 12 months. To quote Henry Kissinger, the only thing standing in the way of a new world order is a strong America. One of the ways that they can diminish America quickly and severely is to allow for an EMP attack on this country. And in light of the events and things that are happening, I'm afraid this is a very likely scenario. So I made a movie about it. It's an entertaining movie, but it's fact-based.
People are getting the director's cut that is even bigger than what you see in theaters. And so this is the first look director's cut.
You know, Hollywood has tried to diminish the final edit on this thing, but what Alex has available here at his website this week is everything.
The most hardcore version.
Yep. So this is a great place to acquire the movie and then to show it to your friends and family and even your churches.
That's right. You can get 1 copy of the film Amerigeddon on DVD at InfoWarsStore.com exclusively right now, or get a second copy, 2 copies for $39.90, and get my first film, America Destroyed by Design, and then one of my latest, most powerful films, Fall of the Republic, that breaks down everything currently happening, free. 2 films free when you purchase 2 Amerigeddons, and I'm doing that because I want to get this film out. Another big thing people can do, if you really want to reach a lot of people, get 2 copies, keep 1 for your own archive to share, take the other and donate it to the library. So many people are smart because they've closed all the video stores. I was reading an article about this in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago, that what's the most popular now at libraries is not the books anymore, but is people going and actually checking out the DVDs, the Blu-rays, all that. And so that's why you make a donation of this to your library. You're going to talk about hundreds of people that are going to check that out and watch it. That is amazing. All of that, I can't tell you how many listeners we run into on the street that found this show, not on a local AM or FM station, but over the internet over the years, because somebody gave them a DVD, or somebody gave them a card with forbidden information, Infowars.com, or they saw a bumper sticker, and it's just exponential. It's exponential. I can't imagine where Infowars will be in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I just pray to God that I can be humble and focused and make the right decisions with this great responsibility. But it's not just Alex Jones. It's what Gary Haven's doing. It's what Matt Drudge is doing. It's what WorldNet Daily's doing. It's what people like Donald Trump are doing. We all are just choosing to not be with the New World Order.